We are live. This is Emil Fisher with another episode of the BCTL Podcast. Today, I've got with me my colleague and friend, Averi Clements. Averi is one of my fellow Jiu-Jitsu Times writers and is a fellow controversy stealer to some degree. So I thought it'd be fun to have her on, and we'd talk about some controversy. How's it going, Averi? Averi? Averi's internet connection. Hello, you there?
Yes.
Yeah, your internet connection is it's not looking great.
Yeah. I'll try to get it on my phone and see if that works. Sorry, guys.
So for anyone that doesn't know, Averi is, I believe, still a purple belt, possibly a brown belt. Are you still a purple belt?
No, I'm still just a purple belt.
That's the hashtag, just a purple belt.
Yep.
Quite talented, actually. I've gotten to train with you once or twice, and not bad. And the big thing, your claim to fame is you're writing for Jiu-Jitsu Time. You've been writing for Jiu-Jitsu Time for what, about 4 years now?
I think so, since I met you.
Yeah, I mean, we met at a tournament, and we started talking, and turns out that you have a background in journalism. You've blogged before. What other sites have you blogged for?
Oh man, it's usually been more like lifestyle websites. So I've written for Bustle and Bold, so a lot of the more like female focused type websites. And then I did a bit of writing for Flow Grappling a while back, which stemmed, I believe, from the Jiu-Jitsu Time stuff. And then you and I both obviously write for Gi Reviews as well. And a few other little odds and ends that I've written for as well.
Yeah, it's funny. Flow Grappling blocked me on Facebook. I don't know when, but they blocked
Oh my
me.
gosh!
I'm serious. I went in. I don't think I've ever other than posts of like highlights of my matches. I don't think I ever really interact with their posts. I went in to look at an old match that I had, and I went to like see what the comments were. I was like, what the fuck is going on with the comments here? They blocked me.
That's so weird.
Oh no! Probably Hal really doesn't like me.
Oh, anyway, that's a shame.
I mean, Red Belt documentary. What can I say? So here's the thing. You write quite a bit on the subject of a lot of the issues that occur in jiu-jitsu between, men and women in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of work on that, and as a result, I feel like you've picked up a lot of flack. Like, it's funny, and I'm sure that like people bitch about me about shit that I write. It's like, I'm not, by no means am I criticizing you, but I constantly get messages. Oh, she wrote this. Like, well, she's right. I don't know what to tell you. What are some of the comments that you've got? Let's hear some of the fun comments that you've gotten.
Oh my gosh. It's usually about being a man hater or I'm trying to even think. I've gotten a few pretty nasty direct messages. One person was upset because I shared someone else's opinion about him that didn't even paint him in a negative light. It was just like an opinion that wasn't, this guy is the best person in the world sort of thing. And I got like a really nasty DM about that. Gotten one crazy person who sent me death threats, so that was fun. And yeah, that's usually it. It's usually the man hater, feminazi things, which I find funny.
One of the more recent incidents that I thought was it's an interesting incident, and I want to discuss it with you. It was actually probably the most recent scandal to hit the jiu-jitsu world. Was the issue with Ricardo De La Riva and Claudio Doval. Yeah. And I got a couple of messages claiming that you had written that De La Riva had raped Doval, and you never wrote that. It was a different outlet. It was a different outlet that wrote that, but for whatever reason, you got credit for that. Like, it was bizarre. You got credit for that. I was like telling people, I was like, I don't think that Avery would write that because
Because it's not what
doesn't. Yeah, because Avery's reasonably good at reporting what has actually been said. I mean, whether or not people necessarily agree with your interpretation, you don't add shit to those situations.
No.
But do you find that you get credit for shit that you didn't write just based on the fact that people think you're a man hater?
Yeah. Like, it doesn't surprise me that somebody said that, but like, if you can't read, if you can't read a byline, I can't really help you. So like, you can go ahead and think what you want. But no, I've gotten a few things like that. The Jiu-Jitsu Times as a whole, like the inbox, a few times we've gotten messages like, why would you write this? Like, this is grossly irresponsible, blah, blah, blah. And they send the link and it's from like a completely different site. And I'm like, I don't think the problem here is us. I think maybe you need to just put a little more effort into, reading anything beyond a headline. So
yeah. It's weird, man. It's super weird. And I see it. I see that sort of thing happen quite a bit. You don't know how many times I've gotten messages about articles written by other people on the site. And I was like, listen, I don't like this article either.
Yeah.
I don't think that the writer did a good job on this article, but Jiu-Jitsu Times is a collective of writers.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for your work. You're not responsible for my work. I'm positive that people have bitched to you about me. I'm positive.
Yeah. I've gotten a few, and I don't even always agree with, every other writer's opinion on this site, and I don't have to, because again, like you said, we're all different people. Like, I'm sure there's been a few situations where like I've written things that you disagreed on, or you've written things that I disagreed on, but like, we're a collective group of people, and I think it's weird. Like, we have some policies, but generally speaking, we're, a diverse group of people, and we're going to have different opinions based on our different life experiences. And I think that's great, but apparently not everyone thinks so.
Yeah, it's a super interesting byproduct of being an amateur professional journalistic unit that's so big in the jiu-jitsu world. Like, Jiu-Jitsu Times, I think at this point puts out more content than any other site.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, after, when we initially met each other, I put you in touch with Kit, and I was like, there you go, run with it, because as far as I'm concerned, if anybody ever expresses interest in writing for the site, I want quality writers writing for Jiu-Jitsu Times. Yeah. I don't view other writers as my competition. Maybe I should sometimes, but
no.
Like, no. I know for a fact that I've been underbid on other writing gigs, like where I was writing for somebody and then somebody else came in, was willing to write cheaper, and
yeah. Yeah.
So I know that, but I also set my price kind of high because I know the quality of my work, and I know that very few people are going to produce that kind of quality.
Yeah, as you
how
should.
did you become an editor for Jiu-Jitsu Times?
Well, our original editor, Chris Sahara, ended up producing, I'm sorry, Chris, if I mispronounced your last name. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. But he was the original editor, and then he kind of took a step back to focus on his broader career. He moved back from being abroad and wanted to support his family in a different way. So he did that. And then at that point, I'd been kind of covering for him a few times. And so Kit was just kind of like, well, do you want a bit more responsibility? Like, you're kind of doing, a good bit of editing anyway. And so it was like, well, yeah, I work from home, it just kind of made sense. And I do have an editing background and obviously like a decent writing background. So it just kind of worked out. It just kind of fell into place. I didn't really have to apply for it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I appreciate about your editing style is that you have a tendency of not really changing the writer's work much.
Yeah.
I know that like I've had other people, including Chris and others, occasionally change my work either too much or too little. Like, they didn't correct the issues, or they did, but then they added in extra flavor of their own. It's like, now.
Yeah. Nah, I don't. Everyone has their own different editing style, but generally, like, the writing's good, then, and you're not saying anything that's like blatantly wrong. If you're citing incorrect information or something, then obviously that has to be fixed. But generally speaking, again, we have a really good group of writers, despite what people on the internet like to say. So I like to keep their work intact as much as possible and only change what's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, one thing that I always find interesting are some of the criticisms that I've heard of Jiu-Jitsu Times and Jiu-Jitsu media in general. Mm-hmm. What are some of the criticisms you've heard?
Oh my gosh, my favorite one is just like, slow news day. Like, if we post something that may seem, frivolous, or like we have a lot of really good, solid content on the site. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is right now it's me and Kevin Bradley, who covers weekends and is like, just kind of covers what I can't get. We're doing the bulk of the work right now. So we're basically 2 people plus Kit, plus, people like you and other writers who submit content, on, like, I guess, a not daily basis. And so, and I have other writing jobs as well. So I physically cannot produce, these super duper long form articles all the time. And so, occasionally, more than occasionally, we'll share like shorter posts and people will go, oh, like, that's just someone's social media post, slow news day, huh? And it's like, it's jujitsu. Like, how much news do you think there is in jujitsu? Like, you can only rehash the same interview so many times, with athletes who, all the respect in the world to them, they're great. But like, the only thing they really have going on is that they're really, really good at jujitsu. And you can only do that interview so many times before it gets boring. And so, yeah, I think that's the big one that kind of drives me up a wall quietly is like, oh, slow news day, or like, oh, really, this is news? Like, I mean, kind of not, but you're reading it and it gets clicks, and you guys don't click on the stuff that, we pour our heart and soul into. So we got to keep the lights on somehow.
It's so funny. There have been so many articles that I've written that I was like, I really, like you just said, I poured my fucking heart into it, and then it got, I think, maybe 30 likes, and I was like,
yeah.
And then, like, I write some shit piece, just because it literally is a slow news day, and people are fucking loving up on it. It's like, well, that's what you get.
Yeah. And people will go, oh, more articles like this, and again, I will pour my heart and soul into so much of what I do, and it shows, and people go, oh, like, we want more of this, like, less of this crap and more of this stuff. And it's like, well, I would love to, but you guys don't click on the cool stuff. Like, and so that's how you get 1,000 different articles about like this grappler having beef with that grappler. And it's just, I hate it just as much as everyone else, but like, you got to click on the stuff you want to see more of if, you want to see more of it.
Yeah, seriously. And one thing I always find interesting is the quality of the comments. So many people don't read the articles. They read the headline and they comment. I love, one of my favorite things, just go in there and, either agree with them if it's on a piece that I've written. It's like, oh yeah, you're right, the writer's a fucking piece of shit. Or I like offering people refunds.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing that you do on there.
It's like, oh, free content. You're not fucking paying for it. Enjoy it. So I wanted to talk about the couple of talking points that I think I'd love your thoughts on. So first things first, the Claudio Doval situation was a super interesting one, and that is the most recent incident in jiu-jitsu history. So for anyone watching that doesn't know, we do have a few people watching it. If anyone wants to chime in, you're more than welcome to in the comments. Give me a summary of the situation, Avery, as you understand it.
Yeah, so basically, Claudia went on an interview and said that her former professor, Ricardo de la Riva, had an inappropriate sexual encounter with her, that she didn't say that it was rape. She didn't say even that it was assault or abuse, even though I think from a technical standpoint, there are many aspects of it that kind of line up with that. But she didn't say that it was, so I'm not calling it that. But it was clearly an inappropriate sexual encounter. From her description, her body language was very closed off. She said she was like a statue. It just seemed like there were a lot of boundaries that were pushed, and Claudia seemed like she was in the situation a lot of women have found, and men have found themselves in, where they were just frozen and in the moment couldn't find the way to physically say the word no, even though her body language was very closed up. So at a bare minimum, it was, a bad, unfortunate sexual encounter between them. At most, there's apparently an ongoing legal situation between them over it. So that's basically what happened.
Yeah. So couple of things that I picked up on in the interview. For starters, I don't know if Claudia is a master actress, but the delivery, the way that she spoke, it was very clear that she was sincere.
Yeah.
It was very clear that she was telling the story to the best of her ability, and that she was, in my opinion, telling her truth.
Yeah. It was definitely the question.
I don't know the scenario, but a couple of what's the word I'm looking for? A couple of talking points that I've heard on this that I think should be fleshed out to some degree. And obviously, neither you nor I can speak for Claudia.
Yeah.
But a couple of talking points that I've heard. One was that she remained on De La Riva's team for quite some time after the incident.
Yeah.
Another was that the escalation of the incident. I mean, it started with him basically telling her, "I'm coming over to your house."
Are you there?
Hey, I'm here. Can you not hear me?
Sorry, Emil. I don't know which one of us froze, but we're back now.
Okay. So the second thing was that there was an escalation of the incident. So initially he reached out to her and said, "I'm coming over to your house to get a massage."
Yeah.
And she allowed this to happen. This was something that she accepted, rationalizing that, he's like a father figure to her and that this is normal. And it's unclear whether or not this had happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two details. One thought that I had when I first saw the report on it, I don't know what kind of person De La Riva is. I know that he is a married man.
Yeah.
But is it possible that he had genuine feelings for Claudia and that he misread her cues?
I think it's very possible. But at the same time, like you said, he is a married man. I know, different people have different dynamics in their relationship, so I can't really, speak to what's going on in his own personal life. But I don't know if he misread the signs. I would hope that's the situation. But again, if somebody is, as Claudia described herself, as being, frozen like a statue, like if somebody doesn't seem like they are all in with an encounter like that, like you should also, regardless of your feelings for that person, like you should kind of have the empathy and just like general awareness to be like, hey, maybe I need to pump those brakes, or, like it just, regardless of his own personal feelings, I feel weird about anybody like moving ahead with an encounter like that when the other person wasn't just like, yeah, let's do this, like it just, that kind of sits weird with me.
For sure. I guess my response to that, and it doesn't justify anything, is have you met people that do jujitsu?
Yes.
Especially people that are really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
Like anybody that has a guard named after them, very likely is a little bit, touched.
Yeah. Yeah,
very
of course.
likely.
Yeah. So are you saying that he might not be that good at reading those social cues, or?
I'm saying that it's very likely that he is not.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't justify his choices or his behavior, but the question then becomes, is he still a piece of shit if he genuinely thought this woman was interested in him and misread it so badly that he, abused his power in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're at that age that he is, so you've lived presumably your whole life, again, not being able to read those cues, like you need to like take some time to not be with people in that way. Like hopefully he would have the awareness. Clearly he might not have that awareness, but I that's hard to say because we don't know. And right now the information that we have is that Claudia said that she was closed off and he kept going. So it's hard to say because we don't know, and it's a lot of assumptions to make on either side, you know.
We do not have a clear narrative from him.
Yeah, he didn't really give us one. Like his response, I didn't feel like was a very clear response to what had happened.
Which brings me to my next point. One thing that we see a lot of is we see a lot of accusations levied and a lot of at times even charges pressed.
Mm-hmm.
And we very rarely hear a response from the accused. The only time I can recall hearing a response from the accused was Mike Fowler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder if there's any way to respond to a situation like that if you don't feel like you're at fault.
Yeah, that's I think what's tough about these things. And if anything, if there is a proper response, it would probably be, I'm going to cooperate fully, with whatever investigation takes place. But I just think for me, if my brother or my partner, my dad, my whoever, whatever male loved one I have was accused of something like this, I would be saying cooperate with, whatever law enforcement, with whatever your lawyer's telling you, like get to the bottom of this so you can, prove that this allegation isn't true. And so I don't know if there's a perfect way to respond to it, but if I were in that position, I'd be like, yeah, release whatever evidence you have. Like, it'll prove my innocence. So
we got a great comment from one of last night's fancy saying Avery is not being nearly as man-hating as was promised. I'd like a refund. If you put the comment in here, if you put the comment on the damn feed, I would put it up.
Yeah. Who was it?
Bill Murphy.
Well, tell Bill Murphy, fuck you. Am I allowed to swear on this? I don't know. Fuck
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so fuck that Y chromosome. There, that's for the day.
That's perfect. So, that kind of brings me to another issue that I wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah.
Very often in the jiu-jitsu world, because of so you have instructors that are doing this full time. They're teaching jiu-jitsu full time, and it's a workplace.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in the workplace, romance occurs.
Yes.
It is a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's a good thing, whether or not it is a bad thing, whatever, it's a thing that happens. And one very common thread that I hear quite a bit of is that instructors should not have sex with their students.
Yeah. I think it depends, and I think people may be surprised to hear me say this, but I think it depends on the individual situation. Because I know multiple people who have entered completely consensual relationships, even casually with their coaches, and everything's turned out fine. But then, you see the flip side of that where an instructor is taking advantage of his position of authority or her position of authority. And it doesn't end up well. And I think if you're a black belt and you're pursuing a naive white belt student who just looks up to you and sees you exclusively as this hot black belt coach, with everything that entails, then you need to kind of be responsible authority figure in that situation and say, nope, like not going anywhere near that. But, if somebody is, a brown belt instructor, or if their coach is a black belt and they're a brown belt, even a purple belt, like enough that they have been in the industry and the sport long enough to kind of understand that dynamic a bit better, then I don't think that, I think that line gets a little more blurry. But again, it depends on the individual situation, because there's some really, really predatory black belts out there that like actively go after their students. And if that's a pattern, that's not good. But if it is the one time in your life, the student has been training under you for a decade and, you've developed a really good rapport with them, then, of course it's natural that something might develop. But I think it should be taken on a case-by-case basis.
How would you propose that the jiu-jitsu world handle these sorts of situations?
That's a good question. And to be honest, I don't really know. I think we need to I guess my big thing would be, if somebody shows that they're abusing that position of power, like the ideal situation would be that they kind of get pushed out of that position of power, but like a lot of people don't really want to take that stance. And yeah, like as a community, I think I really don't know. That is my answer to that. I really don't know. But I think if somebody continues to, like if there's a black belt coach and they're continuously, hooking up with their white belt students or providing, kind of a weird, predatory, creepy environment for their students, like they should be pushed out. Students need to back up the victims in that situation and leave or stand up for what they think is right. But as the whole community, it's hard to do. It's hard to police that sort of thing when it's, two consenting adults.
One thing that I've seen, or I've heard rather, I've kind of seen from a distance, is where there's a scenario where there's a black belt that has rumors spread about them.
Yeah.
Rumored to have behaved in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But none of those people that are party to the rumor are anywhere to be found.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence. I mean, and I'm sure you've heard of this too.
Yeah.
How is that sort of a situation? Like, at what point are we talking about the court of public opinion?
Yeah. I mean, if you want action to be taken, unfortunately, nobody can read minds. Nobody can, teleport somewhere in the past and see what happened. So if you really want something to be done, if something really happened and you want to speak up about it and you want that person to suffer consequences, unfortunately, as difficult as it is, you do kind of need to put your own name to that. You need to kind of give a face or a name to the rumor, the accusation. And that's really difficult. And I don't blame the people who are telling the truth and can't bring themselves to do that. But, at the same time, like you said, if it's just these rumors and these accusations with no one willing to claim them, then that's not fair to the accused either. It's a catch-22, because I understand very much why people wouldn't want to come forward and attach their name to it, especially with all the backlash people get. Like, I don't blame them, but that's unfortunately, I think, what needs to happen, especially if you're not going to go to the police about it and stay anonymous.
We got an interesting question. I'm not really sure the intent behind the question, but I try to field any questions that we get on here. Who are you two, and what are your BJJ credentials? From Ricky Roy. Ricky, I am a brown belt. I've been training for about 20 years. My name is Emil Fisher. I write for Jiu-Jitsu Times. I've written probably about 1,000 articles, give or take, about Jiu-Jitsu, including Jiu-Jitsu Times, GearReviews.net, Jiu-Jitsu Magazine, Jiu-Jitsu Style Magazine, and many others. I'm also a freelance writer, do plenty of work for various websites. I'm also an avid competitor, the current Fight to Win champion, Zapatero Invitational champion, King of the Mat light heavyweight champion, and a two-time No Pans champ. My colleague Averi is also a writer and an accomplished competitor. Averi, if you want to spout off any
Oh, I'm nowhere near as accomplished as Emil. I'm not nearly as active of a competitor, but I'm a jiu-jitsu purple belt. I've been training about 8 years now, and yeah, I've won a few small things in competition. One fight to win match, and I'm the managing editor for the Jiu-Jitsu Times.
Averi's also a brilliant writer.
Oh, thank you.
I'm dead. Like, I'm not just kissing ass. You're very.
I know,
fucking
but that's very sweet of you.
like that's real. Like you and I like Bill Murphy's work as well. But
yeah, he's a really good writer.
20 years and still a brown belt. Yes, Ricky. I took plenty of time off in between, and there's plenty of people who've been for longer that are lower ranked than me. In fact, one of my teammates has been training since 1993 and is a purple belt. It is a thing that happens.
That's such a weird thing to me, honestly, when people question, like, why are you this belt after all this time? Or, like, why did you get promoted so quickly, as though any of us have any real control over when we get promoted, you know?
I mean, it like for me, my story is I started training in 99 when I was 14 years old. And I trained for about 2 years, then took about 2 years off, then trained off and on for another 3-4 years, and took another 2 years off, and then like, sorry, yeah. I'm sorry that I'm not a black belt yet.
Yeah. People were that was like a goofy thing. People were kind of shitting on me when I was a blue belt and writing for Jiu-Jitsu Times. I think I'd been training like 4 years at that point, and I was a blue belt because I've moved. Like at that point I had never like left a gym or been, you know, like any weird relationship with the gym. I just moved from Pennsylvania to Costa Rica and back again and then back again. So like, yeah, I'd been training for 4 years and I was a blue belt. Like, who cares? It's just goofy to me when people question that objectively.
It's funny because for me, I'll never forget, like, there was one time I was at an open mat, and number one, it was at a gym that kind of had lower level of standards for their promotions.
Yeah.
And number two, it was at the very ass end of my white belt days when I was already at a point where I was regularly tapping out purple belts in training.
Yeah.
And I actually, shortly after this training session, actually tapped the purple belt in competition. But the point is, I'm at this open mat and I'm tooling these guys, and the black belt goes, "Oh, you're a sandbagger." I go, "Oh, do you want to promote me to blue belt right now? If you want to promote me to blue belt right now, I'll accept it. You can go ahead and fucking do it. Otherwise, leave me the fuck alone."
Yeah. Like, if you're going to criticize someone for that, like, talk to their coach. It's so weird when people accuse the competitor of that. Unless you know that the competitor is specifically asked to be held back, which even then a good instructor will be like, no, like, we're giving you your next belt. Like, that's just goofy to me.
I mean, so, like, it's funny for me, when I first started training again in 2011, I was very much a white belt. Like, I was very much a white belt because I was so shitty at grappling. Like, I was just so shitty. But I had all these tricks and shit that I had up my sleeve that other white belts didn't have. I made for a super weird kind of white belt because, like, I'd catch them in some fucked up shit, but then I wouldn't know how to do a basic shrimp.
Yeah. That's like, I mean, you know, my friend James Hunt, he was a white belt for a long time, and like, heel hooked a bunch of purple belts in, you know, seconds at a tournament. And we shared that on the Jiu-Jitsu Times, and unfortunately my coaches got a lot of flack, like, why aren't you promoting that guy to blue belt? And at the time, James is now a blue belt, and like, he definitely deserves it. Like, he's unquestionably at least a blue belt, but at the time he was still, you know, in a white belt phase. You know, like, there was still stuff that he clearly was not at a blue belt yet. He just had trained leg locks and the other guys hadn't. So again, it's when people who don't know the situation predict what that person should be based on, you know, a podcast or a couple matches.
It's super interesting. Actually, I have a white belt that I train with. He's actually one of my main training partners. He just got his blue belt right before the COVID-19s. And he's only been training for, I mean, he's coming up on a year.
Yeah.
And he went, and the thing was that, like, he started training with me and very quickly picked up some of my tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And was tapping out high level, like tough purple and brown belts at the gym.
Yeah.
And like was tooling them sometimes, like especially if they didn't know the shit that he was doing. He's like, "No, I'm just doing this to you. This is what's gonna happen."
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I had a conversation with the coach because, like, we talk about who should be coming up on promotion sometime. I was like, listen, he's still a white belt in a lot of ways, but I mean, he likes to compete, and he really should not be competing against white belts because he's breaking these people in competition. It's not nice.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just give him a blue belt. We'll catch him up on the other shit. He's not going to get his purple belt for a while, but like, we got so Ricky Royce is asking another question. He said, when do you guys think we'll be back on the mats? I'm in the Philadelphia area.
That's hard to say. I live in Australia right now, and in South Australia in particular, we have had, I think, one case of COVID in the past 3 weeks, and I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, because I am just spitballing here, but I'm pretty sure that person came in from another state. So person-to-person transmission, we have had 0 for the past 3 weeks, I believe. And so we are planning on reopening gyms, I believe, June 6th. So I don't think it's going to be full-on jiu-jitsu even here yet, where things have been really quiet in terms of the virus. But hopefully we'll be training in June at some point. What's the situation like where you are, Emil?
So it's weird. They're reopening a bunch of stuff right now, possibly prematurely. I'm gonna actually wait. Like, so they started reopening stuff last week.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wait until the beginning of June to make any decisions as far as training goes, because if there's going to be a spike, it's going to happen, in my opinion, probably towards the end of this month, because there's going to be a bunch of idiots that are going out and, we're lockdown's lifted, just kind of doing their thing, and they're going to get it and they're going to spike or not.
Yep.
And if not, then I'm going to get back to normal training, and I've already accepted a spot on a pro invitational at the end of June, which hopefully happens, but we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a few places that have been opening up in Philly and Jersey. I don't know if it's legal yet, but yeah, hopefully everyone can just stay safe as they get back to the mats.
I mean, my whole thing is that, like, I own an essential business, and our staff has whittled down to nothing. There's 3 people running the place. And it's a pretty intense business. Like, we do a lot of shit. And if I get sick, that could be very bad. So it's not, I'm not worried. I'm not necessarily worried about the harm that the illness would cause me or my loved ones necessarily. Obviously, that worries me as well.
Yeah.
But people recover, businesses sometimes don't, or sometimes that's fucked up to say. It's real. Like, it's my likelihood of recovering is higher than my business's likelihood of recovering should I need to take a month off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, you hear and read it all the time, like, oh, crazy times we're living in, but truly, these are crazy times we're living in. So. Yeah.
So, back to the initial funsies topics. One of the things I find super interesting, one of the microcosms in the jiu-jitsu world that I find super fascinating is TLI.
Okay.
And I mean, there's a couple of things that I find interesting about it. Number one, I find it interesting that they're still allowed. They're still out there. They're still doing things.
Yeah.
Number two, I find it super interesting that they were the first team to do the sort of shit that they're doing. Like, it really, in so many different ways.
Yeah. It is really disappointing to me, honestly, that they're still allowed to operate. given all of the reports that have come out of there. It bums me out. It bums me out that there's still any kind of promotion for them.
Yeah. So here's the question.
Yeah.
You get somebody like Jamil Hill Taylor or Muhammad Ali, both of whom, from what I understand, are solid humans.
Yeah, yeah.
Should they be allowed to compete if they're flying the flag of that organization?
I mean, I think they should be. I don't think it's a question of the athletes. I think it's a question of the organization. It's hard to say, no, this athlete should not be allowed to compete when the organization is allowed to exist. Like if something's allowed to exist, you can fault people for being a part of it, but like if you're allowing the organization to exist, then how are you going to say, no, those athletes are not allowed to compete? In an ideal situation, they would have been. They would have left to a different team and not had that sticking to them, I guess. But it's not the world we live in, not the world we train in.
And another interesting argument that I've heard quite a bit of is that the flack that TLI has caught is in some way a remnant of racism. I've heard this quite a bit. And the logic, and there is some logic to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that there are others, specifically, like off the top of my head, there's David Arnebeck.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And there was another guy, a Brazilian fellow that lived in Hawaii. You wrote about him quite a bit. What was the guy's name?
Yeah, that's a whole saga that I'd rather not get into. But
right, but not getting into that, right?
Yeah.
But those are people who are very much backed by and supported by pillars of the sport.
Yeah.
And yet there's been no backlash to speak of.
There has been backlash, though, especially when that all went down. There were a lot of black belts speaking up about it. Like when it came out again that Arnebeck was still, hanging out with Hickson and everything. That was a big deal when everything about, and that opened up a whole other can of worms about who are all these people in the Hickson Gracie affiliation that are doing these things or have been accused or convicted of these things. So that was very much a thing. But I think because I think the fact that TLI still has so many younger athletes that are competing as well, and there are a lot of Black members of that organization. So I do believe there's a good bit of conversation that deserves to be had about, how much of this is racism and how much of it is a genuine concern for the community. I think that conversation absolutely deserves to be had, but you also can't give someone, a free pass specifically because of their race. And that goes for every race, every gender,
So one of my issues with that situation, I as disappointing as it is, I do find it fascinating because I guess I got some morbid curiosity when it comes to a lot of this shit. Mm-hmm. So for anybody that's watching that doesn't know, the major issues with TLI, there's three to speak of. There's Lloyd Irvin himself was accused of participating in a gang rape when he was in college and was found not guilty, or were the charges dismissed?
I forget exactly.
He was not found guilty.
Yeah.
He was not found guilty. Allegedly, he made basically comments to the effect of that he would have participated, but that he couldn't get an erection.
Yeah.
Allegedly. That was one. The second one was in 2013, New Year's Eve. There was an incident between two members of TLI and a third, in which the two allegedly raped the third. The two were found not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And the third incident is DJ Jackson allegedly had sex with an underage girl, raped her, got her drunk, and that's the allegation. He pled down to lesser charges, endangering a minor or something to that effect, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are am I summing it up correctly?
Yeah, I forget all of the specifics on that, but that's the gist of it. Yeah.
Is there any way for TLI to move on from these things?
Again, I think the best situation would be for the athletes who don't want to be associated with that to kind of talk with their feet and find a different affiliation. I don't know if the actual affiliate, I mean, that's silly to say though, because like the affiliation has recovered. Like they're still competing.
They did in 2013. There was a mass exodus. You had Keenan Cornelius, JT Torres, Andres Franofskis. Everybody fucking left.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still around. You know, you look at a lot of different promotions, you see TLI on there. And yeah, it bums me out because there's a few athletes from them that I really, really like. And, you know, it's a shame because I don't think they're still on that team out of any malintent. You know, I'm sure he's a good coach. Clearly he produces results, but, you know, I do wish that they would kind of talk with their feet and make their voice known and find somewhere else to train. But, you know, if the community keeps allowing it, then it's hard to fault people for continuing to go with it. So.
Yeah, it's tough because, again, all we have is the narrative that we've been provided. We don't have a response, probably because the response would do them no favors.
Yeah, DJ, I think, has responded. I want to say it was on one of Josh LeDuc's posts about, and DJ mentioned the fact that he was going to be in front of, I think it was an all-white jury in a pretty conservative state. And so, again, that is absolutely something that needs to be taken into consideration because, you know, racism does exist. You know, we're Jewish, we know that prejudice exists, but it just makes me sad that you have, you know, what could really be a great team and it's marred by that. And it's sad that it's a theme on the team as well. It's not just one incident. It's a whole slew of allegations.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation. And I guess it's also very much a series of unfortunate events in the event that the allegations are in some way being misconstrued.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's a possibility. Like, I had a long conversation with somebody that's close with TLI, and this person was telling me that it was their understanding that at least 2 of these incidents have been misrepresented.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, is there any path to redemption?
I would hope that they would come out and talk about it and say how it's been misrepresented. And, you know, you talk about the court of public opinion. Well, hopefully, you know, they can sway the public's opinion in their favor if that's what the truth is. But again, it's hard. It's hard. If you don't have hard evidence, if there's no conviction, then that's difficult. But personally, like, I think this is a case where like everyone has to use their personal judgment. Personally, if I was a promoter, I wouldn't want that, you know, that like a team with those allegations on my card. But different people think differently. Some people say, okay, well, everyone, you know, deserves a chance at redemption, and I respect that as well.
I also fear that the jiu-jitsu world becomes a court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm. So how so?
Well, For example, the situation with Claudia Doval
Yeah.
was, in some cases, on some media outlets, referred to as rape or sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And while you and I are able to watch the video, draw our conclusions, and kind of understand what it is and isn't, or at least what she's
Mhm.
presenting it as is and is not,
Mhm.
that accusation carries a lot of fucking weight.
Yeah, it
And
does.
if somebody uses those words, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it comes down to people like us to, engage in responsible journalism, which I feel like we did. I actually got a few messages praising my coverage of that situation from some people who ordinarily don't like my work. So I was happy about that.
I thought
But
that was, I mean, I thought that was very well measured, like, honestly. And I don't get why people have an issue.
I don't either, but it doesn't really bother me. And
Don't
I
get
try.
me wrong. There are definitely women that hate men. They
Yeah,
exist.
oh yeah, I'm not one of them.
I just don't think you're one of them.
No.
We got another comment from Bill Murphy. I don't know what he's doing with this question, but I am interested in seeing where he's going with it. He's asking about the role for Nicole. He's saying,
Okay.
Avery, every year you participate in a fundraiser for Role for Nicole to raise awareness for suicide awareness, correct?
Half correct. It has not been an every year thing. I did it the year that my friend Nicole, or Ozzy, as we knew her, Osman, died due to suicide. And at the time, I wanted to do it to help raise money for her family, which they were fully supportive of, and they actually attended the one that I hosted at the gym I was attending at the time. But I think I kind of half attempted it the next year, and it got I didn't promote it as much as I did the year before, and it got still some interest, and a few people participated, which was great. And then to be honest, it's just kind of emotionally taxing to do that year after year, and I fully encourage people to do it. I think it's a great cause. Because suicide is very close to my heart, but I personally have kind of I don't want to say stepped away. I've just kind of left it in the hands of the rest of the world, because it's emotionally draining to think of it that much at an already difficult time of the year. So sorry to anyone that disappoints, but I gotta take care of myself during that time as well.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's a tough situation, and it's certainly something that jiu-jitsu attracts a lot of people that are troubled.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu is very much an outlet for many of those people.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about the situation. I know you've told me a little bit about it. Bill's saying that the medical examiner, that there are some very strange elements to the case. The medical examiner was a part-time medical examiner without much formal training as a medical examiner, who was being a medical examiner as a side gig. The rural police department did not necessarily have a sophisticated forensic lab, and the firearm was not hers. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Sorry,
Anyway.
Bill. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, so I don't. Yeah. So once things come back, do you have any plans as far as competing more, or as far as do you have any plans for the comeback?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to be participating in Grapple Sport, which is a promotion that's set up by James Hunt and my partner Dan Dwyer. And so they were planning on doing this at I think it was the beginning of May. And it's just an Adelaide-based grappling promotion, super fight sort of thing, and tournament. And so I'm hopefully going to be competing in that. Probably will have to drop some pounds, because I'm supposed to be under 60 kilograms, and I'm certainly not under that after quarantine. But So that's the big thing. That'll be the immediate goal. And then from there, it's kind of going to be up in the air. I'd like to compete more, but I've kind of let go of that as my focus and just kind of been enjoying the ride with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. It's interesting. You train. Do you find that the Australian jiu-jitsu culture is different than that in Pittsburgh? Or
Yeah.
Costa Rica, or Costa Rica, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, Costa Rica is so different because Costa Rica is not an island, despite what people think. It is not the same as Puerto Rico. It's just a tiny little country in the little land bridge between North and South America. But it is still very much island culture. So most of the coaches there are very traditional Brazilians, a lot of gi stuff, at least when I was living there. And Australia, from what I can tell, I mean, we have, there's the different states. So you have Lachlan and Liv Giles that are in Melbourne. And then I'm in Adelaide, which is about 8 hours away. And in Adelaide, it's pretty, there's a decent sized jiu-jitsu scene here. It's very chill. Pretty much everyone, I guess I should say, is happy to cross-train and roll together. And it's just very relaxed and very friendly. And it's not that I don't get that from the Pittsburgh scene. It's just a different culture. I don't even know really how to explain it. I prefer the culture here, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's Pittsburgh's kind of a weird scene as in Cleveland. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are similar.
Yeah. Well, what's it like in Cleveland?
It's weird because the best jiu-jitsu, or some of the best jiu-jitsu in Cleveland that I've seen, you got a lot of really good jiu-jitsu at MMA gyms in the Cleveland area. There's a few MMA gyms that have some very solid jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu academy, the pure jiu-jitsu academies in Cleveland proper. And then, you start going south a little bit, down towards Akron, Cuyahoga Falls. They got some solid stuff down there. But as far as Cleveland's got a super weird scene. It's very, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a weird scene.
Oh, Emil, I can't tell if you're frozen or if I am.
You are.
There you are.
You're back.
Yep. Sorry, we had crazy hail last night, and it has messed up the internet. I'm sorry, guys.
Hey, at least you don't have wildfires anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that was this year. What a year it has been.
Yeah, the COVID's killed the fires.
Yeah, I guess.
It's amazing. It's amazing how that works. I wonder if they could cure the fires with hydrochloroquine or whatever.
Oh my god.
It's been a fucked up year. So once things settle down, do you have any plans on coming back to the States to visit?
To visit hopefully in September. And then we'll probably bounce around a good bit. I was really sick with mono the last time we visited the US. I think I got sick on the plane or in our layover in Hawaii. So unfortunately we didn't really get to as you know, bounce around and train a whole lot.
But you were sick. That sucks.
Yeah, it was awful. That was probably the sickest I can remember being since I was a kid. But this time around, hopefully we'll make it out to you and get some more training done around the country.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that things open up right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Who knows? Someone made the joke. If all things are going in Australia, it'll be like refugee status.
One thing I find super interesting, at the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, you were putting out quite a bit of work talking about the ethics or lack thereof of training.
Yeah.
And, very shortly after, within 2 months after, we have now events coming back around and you've done some coverage on that. What are your thoughts on that dichotomy? Like I don't mean this as like a dig, I promise.
No. I know you don't. And a few people have asked me that. Yeah. And my answer is that, like, at the beginning, I think it was absolutely selfish and dumb to train knowing what we knew. And as the thing has moved on and, you know, people's governments have been failing them, I understand, like, I'm sympathetic to all sides of this. I'm sympathetic to the people like me who have loved ones with, you know, pre-existing conditions that are susceptible to the effects of the virus. And then, you know, I'm also very sympathetic to the people that are losing their businesses and, you know, need to put food on the table and they are not getting the assistance that they need. And I think that's equally as terrible, you know. And so I'm sympathetic to all of it. And I'm also sympathetic to myself and the site and knowing that we need to keep the lights on and put food on our own tables. You know, like Kit, you know, our boss has a family to support. You know, I have myself to support. You know, you have your family to support. You know, everybody needs to make money. And when you run a jiu-jitsu website and there's no jiu-jitsu, and, you know, we're getting to the point where I was like, I'll do long form, like opinion articles or even satire articles. And it's been hard to even come up with stuff like that. So I think it's a bit unfair when people, and I'm not saying you're criticizing me, but some people have been like, well, how can you cover Fight to Win or Third Coast or UFC when they're putting on events in the middle of this? And it's like, well, because the event's happening and it's going to happen whether or not I cover it. And it's my responsibility with my job to cover the news, and that's news. And again, I need to get paid too. So.
Yeah, it's funny for me. It's like I've been trying to use the downtime in some sort of a positive way. Like I've been doing these daily podcasts. Normally, you know, once this is all over, I plan on making this a thing that I do. But like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, you're killing it. This is great.
Because here's the thing: I've built such a Rolodex doing the writing that I do for Jiu-Jitsu Times. I figure, why the fuck not? Why not get these people on that like nobody ever gets to hear from?
Yeah, and you're doing great. Like the guests you've told me that you've had, I'm like, how? Like that's so awesome.
It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I'm always stoked and like I was excited to get you on because really you've only done a couple of podcasts.
Yeah, I've done a few. I'm doing another one tomorrow as well. So
cool. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking
to? My friend Melissa.
What's the podcast? What's the podcast?
I hate to say this. I totally forget the name. I'm so sorry, Melissa. But yeah, I'll post the link in the comments afterward. I'm just drawing right now.
There's so many different podcasts out there, and one thing I really have appreciated are people that are using Facebook Live as a way to give people diversion.
Yeah. People have been really creative too with their podcasts and their video creation through all this.
Like one of my favorite daily videos. I don't know if you've seen the Roll with the Fox video, the Silver Fox.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I saw you jump on with him.
Well, no, so he does a daily video at like 10 a.m.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, what he does is he's got one of his students, one of his black belts, Enrique Galarza. They go live every morning and they train together.
That's so cool.
And what's cool about it, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen any of Silver Fox's content, but like the man is happier than a pig in mud when he's grappling. Like I've never seen somebody who's so happy, so visibly excited to be on the mat.
Yeah.
And so just seeing that like brightens my day.
Yeah.
You know, just like a moment of normalcy. What's that?
He is a gem. Like everything. I don't see anyone talking poorly about him.
Yeah, for sure. He's a great dude. But so anyway, do you think that we're going to see any changes in jiu-jitsu media over the next couple of years here? Like, I feel like it's super interesting couple of years ago, there really weren't many blogs.
Mhm.
I think like, so Jiu-Jitsu Times was started in what, 2013, 2014?
That sounds about right. I don't know which day exact or which year.
Yeah. Before that, there really wasn't much. It was more of the news was disseminated in actual print. Like there was Jiu-Jitsu Magazine, Jiu-Jitsu Style Magazine. I feel like print. I don't know if Jiu-Jitsu Magazine's still putting out printed magazines.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because when I was in high school, I just remember Submission Coalition is the name of the podcast. Melissa, I'm so sorry. So that's what I'll be on tomorrow. Yeah, long week apparently. But so anyway, when I was in high school, I was in a journalism class, and my teacher had me working on the online magazine because we had the school magazine and then we had the online magazine. And at the time, she, a smarter woman than I at the time, was saying, oh, well, this is the future of print news or of, written news. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I fucking love newspapers. I love magazines. I love holding something in my hand and reading it. But, she was right. Most of our media right now is online. And I hate the fact that the newspaper industry, the print industry is kind of dying out. But that's, you got to adapt. So, and it's hard, again, keeping even a jiu-jitsu website going. And we've seen a few of them, start up and then fall because it's hard. I don't think people give a lot of credit to how hard it is to find someone who is not only a good writer, but also good enough at jiu-jitsu to write about jiu-jitsu, and will also write about it for little to no pay because, as we know, jiu-jitsu doesn't pay a lot when you write about it unless you have big investors. So you got to be smart. Kid got into the game early and knows what he's doing. So
yeah. Well, what I like with Jiu-Jitsu Times is that, I don't know if this was Kit's intention when he first started, but he kind of just set up it's almost like we have our own individual diaries that we put up on there. And, like we discussed earlier, everybody has different contributions to put up, some of which are more valuable than others, but regardless, I think it's kind of cool. And then we sometimes have guest writers that come on and do really cool shit. I think that might have been how Kevin Gallagher got started with Jiu-Jitsu Times, by doing a guest post. I actually enjoy Kevin's work. As much as he's a bit of an ogre, I love
Kevin. I love Kevin's work. We have two Kevins on the team. They're both fantastic. I think we're lucky to have just a solid group of people writing for us. There's no one writing for us. I'm like, oh, this guy again. We have good writers. We have good people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, do you think that we're going to see do you think that we're ever going to see the written, or sorry, the printed version of stuff done again?
I hope so because I like it, but I mean, people spend more time on their phones and their computer than sitting down and reading, and I'm guilty of that as well. And I love reading, but I get sucked into social media and catchy titles and things like that too. So it's tough.
So when you write your titles, one thing I've noticed is that you do a pretty good job of constructing, and I don't mean this in a bad way.
I know.
Clickbaity titles.
Yeah.
Titles that get people to click.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What do you have a formula, or is it just a gift?
It came from, I used to write for a website called Little Things, which I think the definition of clickbait has been kind of lost over the years because I used to write for viral websites that literally relied on clickbait, and I think people misconstrue clickbait as being they confuse catchy title and clickbait. To me, clickbait is when you click on something and it is just so in your face, you won't believe what happened next, and it is not that exciting. It is literally baiting you to click on something and not producing the result that you want. Whereas a good title, which is what I try for, sometimes maybe they get a little clickbaity, but I really try to avoid that. But a good title will draw someone in while, also providing an accurate description of what you're about to read. And so with Little Things, the person I wrote for was just a master at writing titles, and she fixed mine all the time. But she was always keep trying. So no matter what, write the title. If I don't like it, I'll change it, and then you can learn from that. And so that is what I did. I just kept trying, and I wrote for them for a few years, and I think I kind of got the hang of it like that. But something you also have to consider, and what a lot of people forget when they accuse me of writing a misleading title or something, I think Facebook gives you like not that many characters to write a title. So we have a very limited amount of space to convey an idea. And so, no, you're not going to get the entire gist of the article in a title because Facebook won't show it all the way. It'll just trail off. And so, again, I think a lot of that work in creating a good title is just crafting something that will fit in that space. And sometimes that means making it a little catchier.
Super interesting. Yeah, when I say the words clickbait, I literally mean something that's going to draw the click, something that's going to get the person to click. I guess that it does have a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know that I have a better word for that. I don't have
I get your connotation, but a lot of people use it that negatively, like, oh, this is just clickbait. Like, it's not. It's an attractive title, and it got you to click on it, and the information within the article delivers. So, is it bait or is it just effective?
One of my favorite things to do is when I used to do this a lot more on jiu-jitsu times, but I've just kind of gotten bored with it, was I'd write a title that completely misled you as to what the stance of the article was. I look at the comments and be like, all right, who read it and who didn't?
Yeah. I did that with, oh my gosh, it was like, what is the ultimate answer to how you should train, how you should roll with a woman in jiu-jitsu? Yeah. And it was like, and the comments on that, I was like, oh, nobody clicked on this.
They should have looked at the writer and been like, no way.
Yeah.
Really? I wonder what she wrote. That's what I did. That's exactly what I remember. I'll never forget that one.
Yeah. And the people that know me, obviously actually clicked on it. We're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, of course, that's what you wrote. But yeah, there were a lot of people that got really upset about that.
So, do you have any cool stuff that you're working on? Any cool projects you're working on in the near future here?
Not anything gigantic. I've kind of been taking quarantine as a way to do some, I guess, like catching up on things that I want to do, but haven't really had time for because of training. So things like creative writing or finishing books or watching TV series that I've wanted to watch. I've gotten really deep into, I shouldn't say really deep, I've been consistently practicing meditation. I've been doing yoga. Like, these are all things that I never really had time for. And so I've been enjoying taking that time to just kind of be chill and not focus on things in the immediate future. But I'm sure once life kind of opens back up again, I'll be hitting the ground running, and yeah, hopefully something big will come out of that.
Yeah, it's funny, I actually just started writing for another outlet, like during the COVID, which I never thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy that there are still, what's that?
Are you allowed to say what outlet it is?
So we can. I started writing for Spartan.
Oh, awesome! That's so cool.
So Spartan has, and I don't know how much work I'm actually going to do for them, but I did a pilot of 4 pieces. They are like, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Spartan's a company that does races around the world.
Yeah.
Races like Tough Mudder style thing. They bought out Warrior Dash. So there's another company called Spartan Combat that does like gis and rash guards and other shit like that. Anyway, Spartan Combat merged with Spartan.
Okay.
And in the process of that merger, they hired a friend of mine, Andy Rovat, and they were talking about doing content, and Rovat reached out to me and was like, hey, is this something that you want to do? Do you have room on your schedule to do more content? Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nifty thing, and it's like, I almost feel like right now people are consuming more content. There isn't that much going on.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that Jiu-Jitsu Times can do is maybe put out evergreen content that's already been written. It's like,
Yeah, and that's
cycle
what
through, go back to the fucking beginning. What's that?
Yeah, that's what it's been doing. He does that pretty regularly as well. So again, guys, check the date because not everything is written that day.
Slow news day. But
yes, Jiu-Jitsu every day is Huh?
I said it must be a slow news day.
Yeah. Exactly.
So do you think that we're going to see? Do you think that the return of the competition scene is going to continue, or do you think that things are going to wind up getting fucked up?
I hope it's going to continue, but like you said, I'm guessing there might be another spike in cases sometime in the near future. So I don't know. Hopefully everyone just continues to be safe. Obviously not having a live audience has been working out for people. I think Third Coast is having a limited live audience, so we'll see how that works out. But it's hard to say right now because, a couple months ago, the idea that anything would be canceled because of, this virus that had sprouted up in China was just like so unbelievable. So who knows?
I remember my first kind of COVID experience was with the Arnolds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right.
So that's the last tournament I did. It was funny because the week of, I wasn't. All of a sudden, there was all these this thing about Governor DeWine, the governor of Ohio, shutting down the Arnold.
Yeah.
And the grappling industries did their best to continuously report what was actually happening, but there was a very slight disconnect between the stuff they were reporting and the stuff that was being put on the news and the stuff that the Arnold was officially releasing.
Yeah.
Now, it seemed like ultimately they were telling the truth all along. But the way that the information was delivered was very sketchy. And so as a result, I didn't even know if I was going to go. I was like,
oh wow.
But then I saw who was in the bracket. I was like, I got a chance at a shot at Gordon Ryan. I got a chance at another rematch with Joe Bays. And these are matches that I really wanted. Like, I really wanted that rematch, and I really wanted, if I could get to the finals against Gordon, or if I could find Gordon in the bracket and go against him. I was like, this is worth the finite risk that I might get a bad cold, which is what I thought it was at that point.
Yeah.
And then it wound up like a week later, everything was fucking closed.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I remember when the IBJJF started canceling things and people were like, this is huge. And now it's ridiculous that, to some people that there are events that are coming back. So it's funny. I shouldn't say it's funny how things have progressed, but it's interesting how things have progressed.
Yeah. Interesting is a good word for it. I like to use the word interesting because I feel like it makes me less sad about shit.
Yeah. It's a very
interesting how people's livelihoods are being destroyed.
Yeah.
Isn't that quaint? Fucking bullshit. It's the worst. It's literally the worst.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about it, I feel like this is the societal version of a hangnail.
Oh, what a good metaphor! Yes.
This is the societal version of it, like a bleeding, infected hangnail, and it's not gonna. It's very unlikely to kill you. Very unlikely. Yeah. But it's just annoying and debilitating enough that it fucks everything up.
Yeah.
And
it does kill you.
Yeah, it could. In theory, it gets infected enough, you might get MRSA in it. real
Yeah.
shitty day.
Yeah.
It's such a weird situation, and actually last night I had Stephen Kesting and Bill Murphy on here, and we were talking about it. It was interesting and very pessimistic.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
pessimism.
Yeah, it's hard because I mean, a lot of the people that are experts, like actual experts, not just YouTube doctors, they have a bit of a grim outlook on it. So it's a little fucked up to say like I hope the experts are wrong, but
Well, it's interesting. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Here's where it's actually like, again, legitimately fascinating. The experts have been wrong.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, but I think it's something that they haven't encountered before. So
right, it's novel.
They have the best chance, of any of us to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah. But they say God protect idiots, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Highlander. See, I don't even know who this is. I've never gotten a comment on YouTube before. That's super interesting. It's also being live streamed to YouTube.
Okay, that's cool.
It's kind of a cool program. So what it does, you can live stream it to Facebook and YouTube, and then you can download the audio for it. You can also put like logos and shit on the screen. One of my intentions is in the not too distant future to open up for sponsorship because I figure maybe upgrade my equipment a little bit. Right now I'm literally on my cell phone. I got a laptop over here. I feel like you're backwards. You're on your laptop. You probably have your cell phone.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast uses this as well, and I want to say Third Coast did too.
So Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast, I believe, was the first to do it, to use this platform.
Okay.
Josh LeDuc started doing his On Board with Star-Lord podcast.
Yeah.
And I believe that I don't know who Highlander C is.
Who are you, Highlander C? Speak your name.
But there can only be one. So LeDuc did it, then Third Coast copied him, and I copied him. Like I saw what he was doing, and I was like, that is actually a really clever use of time right now. Like,
well, people are consuming so much content right now as well. Like, it makes sense to be writing or creating in some way. It's been cool to see people kind of turn on their creative side for this.
Have you seen any of the Third Coast podcasts?
Yeah, I was on one. I think I forgot to share it. Sorry, Ryan. But I was on one, I guess it was last week. So he's been doing a really good job with those as well. He's got some cool people on there.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Draculino Eddie Bravo one, and I enjoyed when he had what's his name? When he had Seth Daniels and Josh LeDuc on there.
Yeah, that was good. I really, really like that. Because how often do you see promoters like getting along and having a conversation like that?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially because I like the guy, but Seth does not get along well with others.
Yes.
Seth does not play nicely with other people.
Yes.
And so to have him, and I feel like he's been a bit more docile during the COVID.
Yeah, well, he's I think he's been very open about having gone through some personal changes over the past year and some personal struggles, and so yeah, it seems like he's, I don't want to say turning over a new leaf, but letting that better part of his personality shine through.
For sure. Do you think that there's going to be any sort of once things come back, do you anticipate there being any changes in competitive grappling?
Again, I have no idea because some of the decisions people have made so far have kind of baffled me. So I'm sure there will be some kind of changes, but then again, people might not take any lessons from this and just go back to normal with, dirty mats and whatever else. So I don't know. You would probably.
I truly wonder, like one thing, and this is something that we talked about last night, and that I was schooled a little bit on it, to be honest. I posed the question: is jujitsu in fact a higher risk activity? Like, is it any higher risk than just being in the same room as other people? And one point that Kesting made that I thought was super fascinating that I had not heard about and I have not researched, so I am simply going off of his word, was that they did a study in South Korea in a gym. They had like a gym, and they had a class with aerobics, and they had a class with like a slower, easier yoga. And the aerobics class, the spread was much worse than the yoga because people were breathing harder, thus producing more particulate.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense.
Therefore, I don't know that mat cleanliness is going to be what affects things. I think it's literally
no. There's only, and that's the problem, is like there's only so much you can do when it's a respiratory illness like this. It's, I don't know, but I think the overall takeaway that people are having of, we do need to maintain a sanitized environment. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing, regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic going on. There's a lot of gross stuff.
I don't know about you, but I'm a germaphobe.
Yeah, I'm not, but I still don't like getting sick.
No, I'm literally, I'm a germaphobe. I fucking hate germs. I've always hated germs. I've always been,
Yeah.
I wash my hands more than usual, but
yeah. I'm a farm girl, so I was a farm girl, so I'm used to being gross and saying gross things.
Bill Murphy being gross, being gross and saying gross things.
Yeah, I do think it's fascinating. I think it is fascinating that, like, of all the sports to come back, like the sports that involve being directly on top of someone, bleeding on someone, sweating on top of someone, like, how did that come back before tennis or baseball, where the objective is get that ball very far away and make that person run far away to get the ball? Like, how is that not back in action? But
you make a very valid point. Why is that not? Like, why? No, I'm serious. Fucking, I had not even thought about that. Like, why not tennis? Why not ping pong? Why not? Why
baseball? Like, get that thing as possible. Make them run away from you. Like, somehow that
with baseball, you are coming in close proximity with another person.
Yeah, no, but tennis, like, absolutely. And even still, like, baseball, you do come in close proximity with other people, but not as much as MMA or jiu-jitsu. I think it's funny how that was the sport to come back before everything else.
Yeah, I guess it speaks to the hard-headedness and defiance and lack of general truth of the martial arts world.
Yes.
It's interesting. Like, they had my favorite was the first event, the very first event that took place under quarantine. Underground.
Yes.
That was some shit, man. That was some shit.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think it would be interesting to see this on the outside of the community, like the protests that are taking place to open these gyms. Like, I think if people knew what jiu-jitsu was, then there would be a lot more outcry over it than there has been.
One thing that's interesting is in Ohio, the guidelines were in part written by Dustin Ware.
Oh, really? Huh.
And there's a bit of verbiage that I don't know if Dustin slipped in there, but somebody slipped in there that is fucking stupendous. It said, you will keep 6 feet away from other people that you are working out with, unless drills or instructions require otherwise. Oh, so you actually won't, and they're perfectly,
Yeah,
perfectly fucking fine.
that's funny.
I don't know. Well, here's hoping that we're all back to it in about a couple months here. We'll see.
Yeah. I want everyone to stay safe, stay happy, and hopefully keep making enough money to get by. This is rough for everyone, and I don't, I feel for everybody that's been affected by this.
Yeah, it's awful. It's an awful situation.
Yeah.
So we are at the hour and a half mark. We've talked a lot and yammered on. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, you're good at what you do. I think we covered a lot of important stuff, and I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Avery. I'm always a big fan of your work, and always, always love seeing some of the shit that you stir, because
I don't even try to stir it though.
I cannot tell you how many people that I know that are like, oh, Avery wrote it. Did you see what Avery wrote? What's that?
It's just so funny to me because I never the only times I've tried to be controversial, it's pretty obvious, and I don't think a lot of my stuff is that controversial. But
I think that the biggest issue that a lot of people have, and I don't know that it's an invalid issue, is that they believe that an accusation is automatically assumed as guilt, and that when an accusation is reported, that the reporter is presuming guilt.
And I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either, but I think that a lot of people think that.
Yeah, no, of course, and I totally get that, but we always reach out to the accused to ask for their opinion. We rarely get a response back, or they'll just respond the next day on social media. And when that happens, we share it. So, we cover things as they come out. And again, I would do the same for male accusers as well if they were, and we've covered things where like a female martial arts instructor, has been accused of, pedophilia or things like that. You don't hear about a lot in adult jiu-jitsu, but it happens in, smaller karate schools and things like that.
I heard that there was an accusation levied against Claudia Doval after her accusation.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yes, look into it. No, it was a thing. Yeah. I don't know if it went anywhere, but I heard that there was an accusation made, and it was not really addressed.
Yeah, I literally did not hear about that, but if I had, obviously would have covered that too. But
it is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know that charges were pressed or that there's been anything taken further.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I can find it for you and send it to you.
Yeah, let me know and I'll look into it.
All right, great, Claudia. Or sorry, Avery. You're talking with Claudia. Great. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Did you have any shout outs or anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Shout out to you for doing this. Shout out to Grapple Apparel who sponsor me because they are great. Shout out to Jiu-Jitsu Times for being them. Shout out to everyone who reads because I appreciate you guys even when you don't appreciate me.
I mean. All right. Well, thank you so much, Avery. Have a great. What time is it there? Have a great morning.
It's noon. It's just about noon.
Great afternoon.
Yeah. Have a good night.